I guess.
Yeah.
Almost there.
He worked.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Seems like all of our clocks are a little bit slow, except for our new one. Yeah, theirs.
So if we're doing a fifth Tuesday, I'd gladly put it on that, but if we're not, they're looking at everybody glaring at me. If we're not, let's put it on the fifth.
Jason, did you get my email?
Yes, and then
And is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I sent you I sent you an email. Dion will be reaching out in the next day or two with
Okay.
all the materials and kind of the
Please do a
specifics
fifth Tuesday.
so that you can have all that before the interviews.
Okay.
Alrighty, so we have the finance committee of October 22nd. We'll bring that to order, and we did the roll call. We have all of our council members here and multiple staff members. So the approval of our minutes is our next item of business. Do we have any changes?
No changes.
None for me.
No changes to our minutes. Moving along to department reports and presentations, we have our normal presentation. Sandler for our personnel update.
I'm sorry, we can't leave that. Yeah, okay. Good evening. One of our staff in this room was promoted to recreation supervisor. Alice on the rest of the team, congratulations.
Nice job.
We made an offer to a fleet manager, potentially January 2nd. Living in California, he may start sooner if he can sell his house, and it looks like he sold it pretty fast, so we'll see. We had engineering specialist interviews this week. We'll be doing second interviews next week. The public service director position is open. It closes November 3rd. We have a few other interviews scheduled. Oh, do you need
Okay.
Sure.
Dan's trying
Oh,
to
I
write it all down for you.
Okay.
We have it too.
Okay.
It's in our packet.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in there. Yeah.
I thought you were gonna look over the.
We didn't have it on the right screen. Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah. So are there any questions off of this summary?
You have a question?
Yeah.
No, other than the, so let's see, the public services director, I guess, is there any applicants currently?
We are just opened up and we are receiving applications.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are there any yet?
There, yes, we have received some. I have not looked to see,
But we don't know if they're
How qualified or-
qualified or anything.
no, I haven't looked that deeply at it yet.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Since when?
Mm-mm. I get two of these.
Two,
Oh,
Tuesday.
oh, because one is from 2 weeks ago.
Carrie's pointing down here, yeah.
No, I'm just making sure. I
Yeah.
saw all of them and I was just seeing the interview dates and stuff, so
Mhm.
everything looks good though.
We're good to move on? Discussion action items, ordinance D 24-112, and who is there? Brian? You name that?
Okay.
Right.
This is, we are, adding flexibility to the code to, add a policy or make a change in the code to make it flexible. We're, going to shared leave. So we had a city policy that was in the code or an ordinance as well as a city policy. So instead of making changes to both the ordinance and the policy, we updated the policy and are basically referring individuals in the ordinance to the policy. So I think it makes it more precise and less likely for errors if, we're putting it in two spaces. Thinking that the day-to-day administrative of the personnel of staff would be better at the mayor level.
It was also very antiquated.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of updates to the policy itself based off of IRS concerns. Also, we did bring this forward to AFSCME for their review, and so we did negotiate the impact of this change. We did create, there was the shared leave, the maximum allowed was 9 months. And since then, you know, the state has implemented that paid family medical leave. That's, you know, allows for qualified individuals to take advantage of that. So, we lowered the number of, from 9 months to 360 hours, I believe. So,
So it looks like, basic recommendation is to basically eliminate the council's input and go with staff's only input on, you know, what the policy would be.
yeah, so the policy goes to ask me for review.
Yeah, but that's for ASME, right? So
Right.
I would assume it's kind of shared, isn't it? Is there one policy that, both ASME and
And the guild, yeah, it goes to, this affects the guild, the non-representatives, and ASME, and then it goes to review by the directors and the mayor.
Sure, but currently it's in our code and
Correct.
it's like so it's an ordinance? Yeah, it is. So it's by ordinance, it's set up in our code, right, from the council's direction?
Right, and then I just, requesting Jennifer's assistance to propose this ordinance.
Well, is there any kind of, because from my perspective, I would think that the council would want some basic guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of looks, you know, in my opinion, it's pretty open kind of thing, you know, from what the administration is thinking or whatever, if they want, you know, some basic input from the council so that they don't have to be the total bad guys. And it's like, the council only allows X, Y, and Z, but with some kind of flexibility so that, you know, it's not super rigid, I guess, right?
Right.
Otherwise, it would appear to me that the mayor could, you know, adopt any policy that they wanted to adopt, right?
Potentially, yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
I think it, like a lot of, not all our policies are in
Sure,
ordinances.
Yeah, but it's directly affects the employee compensation benefit package,
Mhm.
basically. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm. And that can be good or bad,
Sure.
depending on who the mayor is at the time. But I agree, there needs to be some oversight in there from council side, not just, one person, because even here it's taken out like department directors. It's just one person is in charge of everything.
I mean, is this something that, the employees actually wanted? Because it seems like you're going from 9 months, what would 360 hours equivalent? How many hours is that? Or
And it is-
so many months.
45 days.
So it's only 3 months. You go from 9 months down to 3 months of flexibility for staff who need time off. That seems,
So part of it was following different laws that are actually in place. There's no
Oh, okay.
9-month law.
okay.
Yeah, that's why I say there's a lot of antiquated language,
Sure.
that really needed to be removed. Sorry to interject.
That's okay.
And then there were some things in there that were really wonky that I know he updated that aren't here. I understand your point. So I think Deputy Mayor's point is more, he would like to see it in the code and codified versus just a separate policy.
Something that the council could weigh in on, that, you know, some basic, outline or basic structure kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? That again gives the staff the flexibility to work within some kind of a roadmap, because it would appear to me that, you know, the administration mayor can basically adopt any policy that they want to at any point in time. So, you know, I wouldn't think that the full council wants to just write you a blank check, sorry, mayor, but you know, we don't know who the mayor is at the point in time, right? You know?
Yeah. You can have a good mayor, you can have a bad mayor.
Or whatever.
You don't know what you're gonna get. So if you've got a bad mayor and somebody's like, hey, guess what? I'm gonna give everybody 9 months. And then as a city, we're going, what the heck, but we have no control or say over that. So, or they could say, hey, guess what? I'm only gonna give you 5 days. So you could, you know,
9 months is shared leave, so that's where one employee donates time to another for some catastrophic life event. You know, I have cancer, my fellow employees come to my rescue, if you will. Brian gives me 10 hours, Sherry gives me 20 hours, so it's not the mayor, you know, granting me 9 months off with pay.
But that's not what they're disputing. They're
Oh.
disputing that it's not codified anymore.
Oh,
So
yeah, I
they
understand
take it
that.
out of the
Yeah.
code.
Yes.
It's not, so the 9 months, yeah, the shared leave policy shouldn't be more than, obviously.
Mhm.
So I think he's trying to fix that, but did you provide the policy to them too, or, because I'm not seeing it in my packet or not?
Yeah, I didn't.
I don't see
No,
it either.
it's
So you're just
because,
looking it up online?
Well, I mean, I
I guess
have,
the point of that would be that we're taking it to be
Yeah.
approved by the mayor. They're not approving that policy.
Correct.
That's where I had to hang out, basically.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, hey, I think the council wants input on the policy, not the policy, but the actual, you know, again, the structure,
Mm-hmm.
the limits or whatever it is. It's like,
Okay.
okay, but doesn't, okay, so admin makes policy and then we make the, we make the ordinances and the resolutions.
right.
So,
yeah.
I mean, if this is a
proposal-
policy, then it could be a little bit tighter in the wording, but, you know, and have very specific things like the mayor can't deny somebody
Right.
a leave, you know, they have to
Yep.
allow
Right.
for, you can't punish an employee for being sick, right? So
Mhm.
you make their life as easy as possible when they're not well.
So
That
that's
makes them want to come back.
separate part. This is specifically just shared leave, so,
Mhm.
if Jason, oh, we'll use me for an example, because I was out, right?
Mhm.
Kindly, Alex reached out and said, can somebody, I tell Sherry I'd like to give part of my leave to her for this. And I said, I have enough leave. I don't need your leave, but thank you. I really appreciated it. That's an actual example.
Mhm.
But when people run out of leave, then somebody like Alex may jump up and say, hey, I want to donate to that pot. So this is just specifically the shared leave. The other
Okay.
parts you're talking about are more like, legal and not a policy relating to like family medical leave and what Brian is permitted to approve and not approve,
Mhm.
which obviously is never gonna end up in a codified
Mhm.
thing. So I think what, trying to be translatable for you, he's trying to take that part out of the code, because it's really not saying an employee can or can't. He's already written up the policy. I believe we've implemented it, haven't we, or we haven't yet?
Well, we haven't implemented it because, we're waiting for this, because the language here is
Yeah.
different from the new policy.
Yeah.
And that's also, another part of it is that it is a shared leave program. Before, it would be like Sherry said, I might want to request leave because I'm all out. And then people would know that someone needs leave, so they would donate. Now it's, people would donate to a bank, and people would know who would be, receiving the leave.
Okay.
So it is more anonymous. It protects the employee who's, you know, so the mayor can individually select leave for anyone or not.
And yeah, to be consistent with IRS rules and, different, taxable versus non-taxable benefits, we've looked at the policy and said, you know, there's a lot of changes. It's really old and this is kind of what we need to do to bring it current.
Mhm.
But now I think it's just a debate of whether or not you want to codify that or pull it out and just say, hey, you know, they can implement this extra program for employees or here's where you're at. If you decide you want it codified again, then obviously Brian would bring back that, see, and we can hash it out of the things that change, like, one thing in there that used to be in there is dollar for dollar basis. Well, we changed that because why should my time count more than her time, you know? It should be dollar, it should be hour for hour. So if she wants to give me 40 hours, I get 40 hours. If I want to give her 40 hours, she gets 40 hours, not 60 hours. Because that doesn't make sense from the city's perspective. The other thing, like Brian said, we kind of did was make it a bank so that way it doesn't get returned to anybody. We're not tracking it. We're not getting it back. If I didn't use it, then it gets to sit there. The other benefits of that is, the law currently doesn't allow us to place a limit on our sick leave because of the way we implemented Washington State sick leave. So all of the codes limit sick leave accruals to 720, but somebody could have 900 hours when they leave. So if you're gonna lose all that time, some people look at it and go, well, gosh, instead of lose it, I may use it. Or I can donate to the bank and let somebody use it when they may be short and need it for an emergency. So that was also a change. I think those are the
Yeah.
major.
Yeah, and it was 360 hours, but you can do that twice. So like if I have an illness now and I need to use those 360 hours, in 10 years, I have another illness, I can use another 360 hours. We don't want to cut it off so drastically.
So I think the last change to it was, that the HR director would quarterly, I think it was quarterly, ask for donations to the bank instead of, oh, we need time, oh, who do you think needs it? Well, Sherry's been out, Sherry must need that time. So that way you're not kind of putting two and two together and somebody's not embarrassed, and going, oh, well, gosh, yeah, she's out of time. Do I want to give to her or do I not want to give to her? Do I think she abused her time? It takes that out of it because it's just quarterly saying, hey, does anybody want to donate? Yeah, I'll donate, and upon retirement, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are the major changes. Now it's kind of, do you guys want that codified or not? It's more of a employee benefit program
Sure,
than a council directive
Yeah.
type of thing.
but there is definitely an aspect, obviously, of meeting the state laws and stuff like that. And like there's a limit or whatever it is, that the state says you can do or
No,
however.
not when it comes to shared leave, no. That's like your sick leave policy.
Yeah, I mean, you can't double,
Medical leave
yeah,
policy.
I guess the state law is that you can't double dip for a paid family medical leave and get shared leave. That's
Yeah.
something that we can't.
Whatever, because if there's an hour limit or minimum maximum type of thing that comes. that would
That's
be something I would
Washington
think.
state paid leave. That's different than this. This doesn't say anything about your limits, doesn't have any of that, because this is strictly, I want to give you time because you don't have enough. And trying to make it as anonymous as possible.
So, but they still qualify for the FMLA.
Yeah, so that would be used in conjunction with FMLA, right? So, we have a lot of people, I have an employee that's currently out on leave, just started not too long ago, and he doesn't have any time, right? This would be a great opportunity for him to kind of go, hey, I want to take this leave. Is anybody going to donate to me? But without saying, is anybody going to donate? How much does the bank have? And then Brian would be able to say, well, the bank has this amount of hours. I don't ask for hours again until December 31st.
But how does the hour, so that's, it's the criteria about how it works, basically, right?
About how someone can ask.
Yeah, how do you get, no, but how do you get hour, or how does the bank get hours?
Because Brian asks quarterly.
Yeah, but how does the employee accrue, the shared leave?
So, we created a specific bank in our payroll system. So if Alex said, hey, I know Sherry needs leave and hey, Brian's asking for leave on December 31.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give 40 hours to the bank. I hope it makes it to Sherry,
There'll
but
be a-
there's no guarantee it makes it to Sherry.
Yeah,
Right.
back up a little bit from that, right?
It's their normal,
How does-
it's our normal sick leave
Yeah,
that
or
we're,
vacation.
or vacation.
People
leave
can
that we're
donate their
in-
vacation.
That we're entitled to.
Yeah.
So each
I don't think
paycheck
that's the
leave,
question.
yeah, that was
Yeah,
exactly.
that's what I'm getting
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would be her bank. So she has on her check, how much sick leave vacation she has. She can donate as long as she has a minimum of so many hours. We won't let the employee, go bankrupt on hours. We want them to be able to, have time off and tend to their own needs. So there's a limit on the bottom. And then, if January 1, she says, yeah, I want to donate to the bank, I'm hoping it makes it to Sherry. It may or may not make it to Sherry.
Is there a different pool that the employee gets, like, it gets vacation?
Well, everybody has their own
Or
bank,
sick
right?
leave?
Just like you probably do where you work, where
Yeah,
everybody works, right?
yeah.
Except
You
for
get regular.
You're gonna have to make
She
your own.
gets all the time off she needs.
Yeah, yeah.
Sherry's just like-
So Alex looks at her stuff and she goes, I have 240 hours of vacation.
That's regular vacation an employee acquires.
Yeah,
over a period of
yeah,
time.
it's
And
like
then they
Based
acquire-
upon the schedule that's in the code.
And then they acquire their sick leave.
Yep,
right?
based upon the schedule that's already
Right.
codified. So that is in the code, how much time people earn. Except I think that, not yours is in the code. Yours would be in the contract. So some of them are in the contract, some of them are in the code, non-reps are in the code of what they earn. And then that dictates how much money or how much leave she accrues, and she decides whether or not she's gonna use it, right?
Mhm.
And usually, spoiler alert, at the end of the year, Alex is like, I'm gonna lose 40 hours, because she just doesn't take enough vacation time. And so she may decide at that point to donate it instead of lose it. Right?
So
Well, yeah.
Wait,
it's up in our code,
they can lose their vacation time, it won't roll over, but they can gift it to someone
codified.
else?
Yeah, so it's codified as well as in all contracts that we're at is it 240 or 248?
240.
240, we're capped at. So at the end of every year, and the reason for that is, so the mayor and I've actually had this conversation.
Yeah, it's been every city.
You don't want to be paying somebody 360 hours of vacation leave when they leave, right?
Right.
So that's where that caps at. It caps our liability as a city. So, and it's also an encouragement to use your time.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
So that is codified, that is in your code. So that's, they're saying how people are gonna accrue, how much they can accrue. Sick leave does not have a cap. It's not, there's a law that you can't have that cap, right? So right now, some people that have been here a really long time and haven't had a medical emergency may have a lot of sick leave on the books, right? Something we may look at. I know the contracts that have been negotiated, they've tried to scale that back so that, that you're not going to continue to earn and get that possibly paid out, because most cities are trying to scale that back, that liability.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think, to me, some of those things that should be, in the, at least the council signs off on the policy and or in the actual ordinance.
Yes,
Some
and
of
those
the
are codified.
Pieces.
So yes, you're right. Those are in the code.
Know what pieces are best in the policy-based kind of thing, and which pieces should be, if any, in the ordinance.
And they would be both. So those are in an ordinance as well as contracts. This is more kind of a benefit and not typically in most cities a council directive, because it's kind of like, okay, how do you want to police this?
Sure.
And what is the best interest of the city? Obviously, like I said, hour per hour makes more sense than dollar per dollar. Because if she donates, this amount, well, that's also requiring me to then track.
Yeah.
Okay, how much is this hour worth? And I don't have that ability. I don't have that kind of staffing to track how much every hour is worth.
Sure.
So when Jason decides he needs to take some shared leave, okay, well, here's an hour from Alex and that one's $50. And here's an hour from Debbie and that one's $75. I don't have that time. So we went hour for hour.
But isn't that some of the stuff that you'd possibly want in an ordinance kind of thing, so that the city knows it tracks from a city perspective, daily? Because if you have some mayor that comes in and says, I really want to give 4 hours of time to these people or whatever, or something like that, and you're like, or however you said it, right? 'Cause what's that worth as opposed to, we only give.
Well, there's no free time. You mean, yeah, the mayor doesn't earn vacation time, obviously. So there's no free time. He can't come up with free time. I wouldn't let him. Because there's nothing that allows me to do that in an ordinance, right? But an ordinance does allow Alex to earn vacation.
Yeah.
And so Alex gets to choose if she wants to use it, or, maybe she never wants to take a vacation the entire
Sure, yeah.
5 years she's been here and she wants to donate it all. Our policy doesn't allow that, but let's say she did,
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
bank is about us sharing leave amongst us.
Right, I think what my thought is it's telling us in this right here that the mayor is authorized to adopt policy regarding the implementation of shared leave for the employees of the city of Bonney Lake. I think what I'm hearing Deputy Mayor say, and what I'm thinking is that there should be some type of codified policy, like, hey, that there's not one person that says, hey, Sherry's gonna get 300 hours of this because she has a medical emergency, but Alex is only gonna get 50 hours of it.
Yeah.
That's what I think my thoughts are, and that's what I think I'm hearing from Dan, is like, there's gotta be a way so that you don't have favoritism. You don't
Yeah.
have one person making favoritism over somebody else. So maybe you have a mayor that comes in and is like, I only like Jason,
Yeah.
But
Hold on. So I think that's absolutely what Brian tried to do in the updated policy, because it
Okay.
did kind of feel more favoritism, and now it's more anonymous. There's no way to do that. I think what you could do to solve that is say, that the policy is, what's the word? Designed, but not designed, written by the HR manager, approved by the collective bargaining agreements and adopted by the mayor, you know, and reviewed by the department heads, because every policy actually goes through that process, right? If Brian creates the policy, he then sends it out to a core group initially, like, hey, can you, you know, because finance has a pretty big input. So him and I worked pretty closely on it. After that, he went to the directors and said, hey, you know, what do you think? Get your input. And then he went to the unions and said, this is policy, you know, do you have any qualms? So of course, you know, they're gonna have some input and some back and forth. And at the end of the day, the mayor would like to adopt that policy. So it already goes through that process, but I think you're right that you could spell that out in here, that this is kind of the process.
Yeah, it's what, and what I see, what I think you're saying is that you don't need what was in there before. You don't need the, like this, every specification of the policy and how many hours and all that, but you would like a little more on like what Sherry just said about, how it's.
Yeah, because I think for me, it would be
Yes.
interesting to look at
That's a
the
good way to
policy
say it.
proposal and see if there was like, oh, well, you know, I would believe that this part should be codified, you know.
Okay.
and Say, because maybe it makes sense after you look at the whole policies and like, yeah, this is all like, you know, administrative type stuff or whatever it is.
Yeah, I agree with
It
that.
doesn't need any kind of guardrails because, you know, and what Sherry's talking about too, you know, you always have to think of what does the evil side of the world look like, right?
Well, I do, especially Brian's always like, Jerry.
You want things, you know, use your legislative branch to codify things where it can be, you know.
So instead of maybe codifying, the other option, you could possibly do is this could possibly be a policy that is written by Brian, you know, reviewed by directors as well as finance committee. You know, maybe finance committee just reviews it, signs off on it before the mayor adopts it. You know, saying that, yeah, you know, we looked this over and it passes the sniff test.
Things like that, you know, but without having the policy to look at.
Yeah.
Proposals, kind of hard to
Sure.
figure out what we, if anything.
There's no way to guarantee when one person requests leave, that it will be the same when someone else requests them.
They're all individual.
Yeah.
Because the bank could be different. The bank could be different at any point in time. So if no one is dedicating, so if no one is volunteering to put hours into it, and Sherry comes up and says, I want to use shared leave, the answer could be, there is no shared leave, sorry.
Mhm.
A year later, someone could have decided to make a big investment into it, and Alex comes up and says, I want shared leave, and she gets 360 hours. So it's really, there's no way to guarantee that every person is going to be treated equally, because it's based on
What's in the bank?
what's in the bank when the employees are giving to the blank, and that could be random throughout the year.
And so my husband worked for a different city and I reached out to him and said, do you guys have any sort of shared leave? He has like all week on the books when all this happened. And they said, let us check the bank. And they came back and they said, we have about 120 hours, you know, we'll give that to him. Okay, cool, you know, and that's what, you know, I was thankful for that. But it would have been nice if they had more in there, but it just wasn't, you know.
And the person they would come right next after that, unless there was a big donation, would be zero.
Yep.
So it's really, there's no way to guarantee that it would be the same for every single
It should
person.
have bankrupt the policy.
We did,
Because I asked Brian to put in a statement that we couldn't bankrupt, one person couldn't bankrupt the bank. You know, because you don't want, well, I mean, you wouldn't want me to come through and say, hey, I need 3 months worth of time. And then Alex to come right behind me and not have any time.
Sure.
Right. So I think, I asked, I don't know if it got put in the policy or not, but I thought that there should be some sort of,
backstop.
yeah, so you can't take more than X.
Just want to raise that based on your question. Even if you have the greatest mayor and you have the greatest staff, just because of the way these banks work,
Yeah.
there's no way to guarantee that everybody, when they need it, is going to have the same results.
Correct.
We, you know, I don't look at the sunny side, right? I look at the other side, because long experience with other mayors that are not nearly as nice as this one, right? You know, they're trying to protect things. Well, you
Agreed, I would just,
so that, you know, it's most available as the council wanted it to be, type of thing, so. would be interesting to see what you could.
But the city does not add to this in any way, shape or form. It's
Yeah,
only-
no, that would be kind of,
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
See what cities do with that. Because
cities don't do it. If they have a policy like this, and Brian probably knows a little bit more than I do, but with the directors I've worked at with the finance, if they have a policy, and a lot of them don't do shared leave anymore, if they do, it's similar to how we operate. You know, there's a bank, nobody knows who donated other than me and my payroll person. But the city does not contribute to it.
So, yeah, is there any, because there's scenarios like you're pointing out, if you went to Seattle, I imagine they probably always have share leave available. There's probably a decent bank available, but if you go to 40 or something.
You know, people are very generous here. The employees are very generous. So as long as,
Is there any scenarios where, you obviously have two employees that need shared leave?
and there could be none available, absolutely. But there's also the state paid family medical leave that people can
Sure.
apply for and obtain.
Maybe you do it as you get this week and then this other person came in and okay, they get this week
Yep.
and then we see where we are at that week.
Yeah. I think there's 40 hours in the bank right now is all. But I don't think, Brian's asked for
No, because we're
really
waiting for it
because
to get,
it's not passed yet.
yeah.
So until it's passed, yeah. But people do, they're very generous.
40 hours is generous.
Uh,
Working is 100 and whatever.
there has been in the past year, let's see, but,
Yeah.
over 500 hours into the bank.
So 40 right now.
How many people do you think visit?
One, two, probably like five of them. Probably 5 people are losing time here. But a lot of people are losing sick leave when they leave because they could donate it to the bank and they don't because it's not an option at retirement right now. But we thought it'd be a great
Yeah.
option to add, saying you can donate your leave to the bank upon retirement.
Why, so I'm sitting here just kind of flabbergasted because my husband works for the city of Seattle. And being an employee of the city of Seattle and being a union firefighter, they don't lose their leave. They get to roll over their vacation time. They get to cash out their sick leave, their vacation time. They get to cash out their merits. They get to cash out everything when they retire. It's like everything that he had accrued is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours that are sitting there. When
It's a
his retirement goes through this year, he gets to cash it all out.
Yep, it's a very antiquated policy that most cities are trying to get away from. We have made ours now a little bit of progress on it based upon past council discussions. A lot of progress. What is it? If you, there's a grandfather clause. Now, we talked about this 8 years ago, right? You and I did about a grandfather clause. So that the current people wouldn't lose because right now, if you've been here at least 5 years, you're going to get 100% cash out of your sick leave. Up to 720 hours. So they're trying to get away from that in future contracts and as the contract changes, the code will change, right? Because it's a liability that used to not be reported in the financials, that often were paid, we're tracking down on this. In fact, there's in the gas 101 this year, says you have to track some better than what you're doing because if the city were closed, how much you owe to employees? I don't know, right? They do. If you were a going concern and you were closed and you had to pay out every person, do you have enough money to do that? That's a lot of money, right? So they actually make a decision for that. It's in my financials right now, how much that would cost us to say it's a hefty number. I want to say it's up to $1 million. So to get that off of people's books, changing policy, this is costing a lot of money, right? John Morrison, when he left, his payout was nearly $100,000. A lot of money to a small city like this,
And there's not no rollover, it's just there's no rollover after 240.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to get to.
Or, I know Seattle's is on vacation leave, you can automatically bank half of your vacation to roll over and use whenever you want. And you only have to use half of it in a year.
Wow.
Or make as much as you want as long as you don't exceed the cap of 240.
We don't have any coverage.
Not basically, but on vacation, it's 240. Because last year I was 248, so, but we don't have any ability to cash. We've never had that as a city here.
We have a cap on her. And we don't have retirement, so, we can, well, right now we cannot, we can't cash out, sick leave, but we had under the new TA that did not pass, that they were going to allow us to cash out our sick leave. So that we could use that as retirement, but like most of us, because we're a school of germs, like petri dish, literally, we have to use our sick leave.
And what you're seeing now, correct me if I'm wrong, with the younger generation, they're using their sick leave. They're not wanting to take it, you know. Older people, probably as well, probably you and the other city, Chuck, definitely. We're all of the ilk, you know, you make it, right? And so we're the ones that really are like, yeah. Everybody else, you know, they want to use it, they get it and use it, from time to time, and, you know, it's just different.
It's differently. Other guys got 10 or 0 hours, and I'm like,
Yeah.
how do you have that? What are you doing? What if something happens?
I have both sides. I have some that have 600 hours and I have some that, you know, barely make it month to month, you know, and that's okay. The policy, I think, used to try to reward people to bank it, you know, but the problem with that is one, payout. Two, if you bank it, of course I don't want that payout. And if you're not gonna pay me out, I'm gonna use it, right? So either way, you're paying it out. Unless you come up with some sort of rental house. If you do that, you're gonna use it. So it's getting paid out one way or another.
So for this one, could we bring back the policy proposal that you get hammered out?
I can bring the policy and then, you know, a little bit of change to the ordinance as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can do that.
Just get some oversight. There, it's not just, you know,
I just know that when we were interviewing for mayor positions, one of the questions was, how do you stay in your lane? So are we in the wrong lane right now?
So from my perspective, I think it's absolutely, Councilman, people are saying, you know, I think it's just more than just an error. I think that's great. I think that's absolutely, you're right. There should be something there that says more than just mayor's. Look, you know, we've got a group of people reviewing this and all kind of agree this is the way to go. Should it be in the nits and grits of this actual policy? Probably not. I think that's what Brian proposed to hold out, because it's truly an employee-driven policy. And with finance input of how we're gonna track it, because I'm not tracking for in her 75 hours, you know, dollar by dollar, that's just not feasible.
Right.
And, you know, the policy also said, return it, well, I'm because, you know, I'm not gonna track whose hours I use, and whose hours didn't I use, it just doesn't make sense. So there's some really antiquated things to the program. They were put in place when I say, Alex, I need time, will you donate? And Alex says, yeah, sure, I absolutely donate. And I knew that was coming from Alex. Trying to do it's not that way now, so that, you know, it's just a bank, it's anonymous, doesn't change our tax rules, it doesn't change our rules on recording income. It's cleaner. So it's kind of the finance part of it to follow up and follow that.
That why they do it nowadays, kind of, cause I think, like you said, the old school, it was like, you know, sharing needs to be what anybody does.
Yeah.
That used to be email would go out and say, hey, this person needs leave, does anybody want to donate?
And you know, people would,
And they would.
if they would talk amongst themselves, they'd be like, that Brian, when he made me mad, did you hear what he did to me? And then you would also, do you know that Brian? He took a stand for American. Why did I give him my time? So that, you know, so you get this. And that's not what we want to be part of. Rather say, donate it to the bank, the better good of everybody.
But you guys are happy with that scenario, I guess, not worried that people kind of like don't bother to.
I mean, yeah.
Not that I don't know who it's going to. I
You're
would
not
donate mine to Sherry, but I'm not gonna donate to a pool where Brian can get on with it.
In the last, I would say in the last 3 years, since running for general but, we quit telling people what it was for. So that stopped, back then, and people still donated. Like I said, the last year, I think there's like at least 500 hours donated. So,
Do you know if staff in general, so we've heard mayor, finance, and department heads are okay with this. Do you know if staff are okay with
he
this?
worked with the unions.
Yeah, we met with the union a few times. We gave an initial proposal and they requested a couple of things added in there, 4 hours of what we originally thought. So I think there, and I think that will want to be, anonymous, as this does. And I think, I wanna, I think they like to give, and I think when they get a quarterly to give, even if they don't know if anyone's getting it, they will. Because they've seen people impacted from it, people that have received it will want back when they've been in that situation.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, and we can poll everyone, but we did work with the athlete, and I know they reached out to their members, so. And, I shared it with Bill.
And we'll also allow people to donate at retirement too, which I think it's gonna help the bank. So,
Yay.
So back to finance on November 12th,
Okay.
tentatively go to council on November 26th then, or?
So basically, we're just changing, who has the authority to adopt the policy that, so we're gonna basically say this is gonna, this went through the union, this went through the director, going to go through the finance committee, and then the mayor has the authorization to adopt the policy. Once it's been heard by these groups.
Yeah, it just gives oversight so that one person's not looking and going like, oh my God, the mayor has all control over this. That's the way it is right now. It's just making sure that we're, you know, if a staff member sees it, they're like, okay, this is fair. This is fairly distributed, not just one person gets a say, so.
everybody's headed, and it's not just the mayor coming up with some.
Yeah.
Sure, you're gonna do this dollar by dollar, and I go, well,
Yeah.
you know.
But once policy is implemented and somebody needs to take from the bank, that does not have to go through all of this
No.
process.
So then it's gonna say, they
So
let
then-
Brian know,
Okay.
and then we take it from the bank and add to the person.
Once it and the they're adopted, everything's done and it just goes straight into place, not anything else after that.
Thank you.
Brian, I had some vacation in November. You got, you're gonna be for the 12th, we're gonna do it in the second meeting.
We need him here. Since we kind of already know what it's all about.
Just with them, I don't know if you know, prepared time.
Okay. Yeah.
I prefer when he's here. I mean, it's his policy. I have a really good, understanding and provided a lot of input to it. I would prefer Brian to be here.
Here at 12, I did, yeah, I don't have my time between now and then prepare for it. I will be able to get it done. Thank you.
So item number 2 is our recreation update. As per usual, still keeping an eye on that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'll be,
John,
pick that up. David, I'll be on vacation, so, we have been, meeting with David and looking at the revenue expenditures for the recreation program. Most recently, I did a spreadsheet for me, to indicate some more likely projections for year end. He did note that in 2024, 2023, we're about 297,000 over expenditure over revenues. They've gotten that down to about 212. However, that is. What's the here?
Straw looks like you're ready to drink out of the straw.
So he and I was concerned. In 2023, we're about $297,000 over revenues. It looks like based on the projections that we've gotten from David and Sherry and I have gone over those last couple of days, they will likely end up about 212 over over revenues. So council previously authorized 148,000. So that's about 64,000 over what council previously indicated they wanted the program to be at.
Do we know where that, like, today, but it's kind of.
The numbers as of October, I can't really do mid-month numbers. Everything's posted.
Well, because my particular question, or kind of like, from the council, the council basically authorized that 148 for that particular department, was my understanding. Or however you want to read that, right? And I don't know what happens when it's kind of like, that was it. We only gave them like 2 miles and they apparently maybe drove the car 2.5 miles.
Well, we go by fund level, so it's general fund. Your general fund will be under.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm just wondering about the particular,
It's almost like a program.
yeah, the line, whatever you want to call it, the line item or whatever it is, aspect of it, right? Where we said, yeah, you can only spend 148, and I'm hearing that we
212, we believe around 212.
probably for that, most likely kind of might be.
Those are my projections. Those projections are a little lower than mine, so I'm very confident in my number of 212.
So I'm accepting good input because, my concern is that the council set a line at a certain level and I think slid it over or close to it.
And I mean, everybody knows I'm pro kids, I'm pro recreation, I'm pro keeping our kids out of trouble. I see the impacts of the kids that come in out of my shop, and the families in particular. I mean, as small business sucks that we are supporting summer. We are supporting summer, but the impacts of the kids down there is humongous. Like what we do as a city is benefiting a lot more than just our students, but we pray if we could find more money coming from other places.
I think Alex has some.
Yeah, so David wanted me to share, he did meet with Dave Morrell and a council member, Herrera from Pierce County, and they're trying to figure out some sort this year that potentially next year, some sort of item that they can give us some money to these peers. David did the map showing where all of our programs are. And there's quite a lot outside of the city of Bonney Lake, into Holly. So we are working on that. Also working on some additional sponsorship opportunities that we're going to be promoting, trying to get those donations in, and hopefully some of those this year before the end. We're also, I just started a new basketball program that's will end at the end of this month. I'm going to try to do it quarterly. That was super successful. That had nearly $10,000 of revenue for about 8 hours work for 8 hours per. So one build one basketball. This is community. That's basketball. I think well, I did have a conversation last week. Last week, and I think what you and I talked about is like Joe, he was 27, he's down to 212. He has ideas how to get back down next year. It's just taking him a little bit more time and trying to get, figure out what he can and can't do. And I said, hey, maybe come up. I think he might have provided to Alex. I don't know the list of different things that have that he has looked at implementing, possibly what he's looking to implement in the future.
Right, yeah. And I think all good, right? Like Harry identifies a program, it's hugely valuable to the community. It's just vastly valuable. I'm very proponent of the program. But I'm trying to figure out, from a budgetary perspective, if say we had hired NYC or NYC, whoever it is, and said, had a contract with them,
Right.
you're for this year, and by the way, we're gonna pay you, $100,000 to do this program. It would be unthinkable in my mind for them to come back in November and say, oh, yeah, it's not really working. We want an extra $50,000, $100,000 to do this for us. We'd be like, no, here's the contracts and this is what you said you're going to do and didn't deliver to us, right?
Project director, right? I would tell you that it sounds like he's making strides. I think he can make it to the 140, the things they talked about. I feel our budget this year is pretty tight, but I think I can absorb our budget. Well, no, I don't know. Well, I just, well, sure, but I can't do that without, you know, that was never approved. I cannot go over, so I think I can do within our budget confines this year, going forward. I can't in 25 and 26, so more, you know, that we're under, I think he's getting there, so. From a budgetary perspective,
Yeah.
as long as the council's okay with this, I'm not super concerned that he's over 64,000. You know, but it's 300, that's room for me to stomach. You know, 212 total, but you gave 148, right? So I think we're getting there. I also think that the difference between something, if you're going MRAs and RAs, not private versus internal. They would go into the program knowing their parameters. Alex had parameters in two parts of the way, and now we're trying to figure out how to work within those new parameters. That's going to take some time, you know. 23, May, June 23 is when they removed the DNA. So you get a little over a year out from that. It's a huge project.
Yeah.
So if you did that to MRC, you probably pull the contract and say, we never agreed to this, right? They didn't have the opportunity to do that.
Right. But, you know, it wasn't like last week or anything, we told, you know.
No, it's been.
It's hard to say, hey, I'm gonna take your revenue and say, guess what, I'm taking your revenue source away from you. I'm gonna give it to the school district and then, but now you're required to figure out how to fill that gap of that revenue.
We had a conversation to ask about that, right? It wasn't like it was a mystery. We did a lot of book, you know, swapping in between.
Yeah.
We had a conversation along and said, here's your budget, can you do this? And here's your number. And the director of that organization said, yes, I can do that. So how hard is that to understand that?
You mean MRC? Is that what you do it?
Oh, okay.
Dave said he could do it.
Yes, he did.
He did not. I think that, we all had.
We specifically asked, you might have not been here, or you was here.
He did. He was like, I can do it for.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't expect so, you know, I'm not gonna,
Yeah.
you know, ask somebody to do something. That's why we ask them.
But I just thought we were all.
Yes. Yes.
Because I just recall all at the council.
I didn't have a lot of confidence in his answer, I will say. So I've been watching the budget because, like I said, I didn't have a lot of confidence in that answer. However, that aftercare is $850,000 in revenue. Paid for all of it. And the rec program was self-sufficient up until that point.
Well, depends on how you feel self-sufficient, right?
Well, it was fully dependent on the board aftercare to make sure that all of their bills were paid for and that they could break even.
So I guess the meeting I'm talking about, before Councilmember Huber was on, I think you were on council and Councilman Bolton. Remember, we were at the meeting, Justin was there, Tom was there, and you were discussing removing DNA. And David's like, I don't think I can do this. At the council meeting, not in this room.
Yeah.
So we did specifically, he did say, I don't think I can do this. I'm over there trying to figure out how much you think you can do it for. You know, we're trying to figure that out on the fly. When the council said this is gonna go back to the school. So it's a bit different than if you were worth MRC and private, you know, saying, hey, well, now we're gonna take this from you, make it work.
They can get grants, they can get other funding sources that we can't. Yeah, so private versus a government entity is very different, but I mean, I look at it as they are doing a great job of trying to fund their resources and find ways to fund the balances and fund and figure it out. And if we can absorb that last little bit to help them get through this year and continue moving forward, that's my hope.
Last year in December, I believe it was, we absorbed what?
Yeah, it was 297, like you said. I was trying to think of a problem solving, listen to what you guys are saying. From my perspective, I think a way you could easily move forward with this, hearing your concerns, you could say, okay, we are giving you a 48 next year in the budget. We don't have room in the budget to go over. If you can't make it work, then, at amendment time and 2025, we're gonna consider really looking at our receivers as a candidate, right? That's an easy way to have a line in the sand you're looking for and hold them to it, but also give them some time to work on these things and realize how serious this is, right?
That's a good input. I thought we already drew that line. I thought we already did acquisition, frankly. That's my expectation is that, I'm aware, the rest of the people are gonna be right. Because the council drew the line, so I don't wanna, we'll have the council, right?
Well, and now we literally just, okay, so,
Okay.
yeah, so I mean, that's one thing, literally that just happened, what, last week or, was it a month ago? Yeah, so,
And from a budgetary perspective, absolutely, I'd love for him to have solved this, right? And to be not having to have a conversation, but we're not there. And
Yeah, I
he
agree.
has,
That was our
brought down
expectation, though, or at least, that was maybe
$70,000.
one council member's
Yeah.
expectation.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Sorry.
he has brought it down 70. You give him another year to bring it down the other 70 or 60,
Mhm.
Yeah, we also, found grants that we would be eligible for, so. when
Oh,
they
yeah,
get
we
this
appreciate
done-
all your guys' work, it's definitely hard work and everything. That, we recognize that stuff, it's great. We'll have to go down to the full council, I guess, and adjourn this meeting.
Yes.